Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to CU's College of Nursing Call to Care ceremony. I am honored to have this opportunity to address our baccalaureate students, faculty, staff, families, and friends attending this special event. My name is Elias Provencio Vasquez, and I am the proud dean of the great CU College of Nursing. Since I started my deanship 2.5 years ago, I have had the opportunity to see the incredible work taking place here. I am excited to be part of the talented and dedicated faculty and staff who make CU College of Nursing a great place to work. A great place to work is characterized by individuals who trust the people they work with, have pride in what they do, enjoy the people they work with, and have opportunities to learn and grow. It is a great time to be part of CU College of Nursing. I really wanted and worked hard to get this job as dean. One of the many reasons I wanted this position was because of our CU College of Nursing rich history. Let me share with you a few examples. In 1965, CU College of Nursing initiated the first nurse practitioner program in the United States. Now there are more than 300,000 nurse practitioners providing care in the US. In 1978, our PhD program began. In 1984, we created a Center for Nursing Research. In 1986, the Center of Human Care was established. In 1995, the National Resource Center for Health and Safety in Child Care was established by the Department of Health and Human Services. We set the parameters of quality and safety of child care in the United States. CU College of Nursing has 11 living legends of the American Academy of Nursing. This designation from the American Academy of Nursing is bestowed upon a very small number of nurses in recognition of the multiple contributions these individuals have made to our profession and our society. We have inherited greatness from the past generation of nurses. This greatness will be passed to the next generation of nurses, you, our students. On the heels of celebrating our landmark 120th anniversary in 2018, we are as committed as ever to providing a world-class nursing education to a diverse group of future leaders who will become the nurses looked to first. The College of Nursing remains steadfast in its vision of shaping the future of health in and beyond Colorado through collaborative, visionary, and transformational nursing leadership. To our students, the nursing profession is truly, truly extraordinary. You have chosen to pursue a profession that combines critical thinking with compassion, experience with innovation, and knowledge with power. You are preparing for a career in a field that will bring you both challenges and many memorable rewards. You might be one of the lucky nurses that experience a miracle during your nursing career. Your commitment to nursing and call to caring is timely. The World Health Organization has declared 2020 and has extended it to 2021 as the International Year of Nurse and Midwife to recognize the dedication and sacrifice of the millions of healthcare workers on the COVID-19 front line. This is an opportunity to showcase and celebrate the work of nurses and midwives, highlight the challenges and conditions they often face, and advocate for increased investment in the nursing and midwifery workforce. The global COVID-19 pandemic has shown the world the important role that nurses play in keeping people healthy across the lifespan in various healthcare facilities. In closing, I want to mention that the nursing profession has yet again topped the 2020 Gallup poll as the most honest and ethical professionals. Nursing has ranked first for 19 consecutive years. More importantly, the poll once again shows that our patients, their families, and the public know that they can always count on nurses to advocate for them. We as nurses witness the challenges our patients face and care for them at their most vulnerable. Congratulations to you, your family, friends, faculty, and staff who will support your journey to becoming a professional registered nurse. Thank you. I would now like to introduce to you our next speaker, Omara Macias. Ms. Macias is a senior in the traditional program. She had a previous career in mental health before pursuing nursing and remains passionate about the importance of mental health. She is the founder of Future Voices, which is a Students for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, past vice president of CU Student Nurses Association, and is also a member of the Colorado Council of Black Nurses and Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society. She is in our honors research program, currently exploring the role of physical and emotional pain in treatment retention for opioid use disorder. Ms. Macias.
Thank you, Eli, for that introduction, and congratulations to you all for getting to this point. I'm honored to have this space to share with you. My father came to America from Ecuador at the age of 14, not knowing a word of English. His strength was always connecting with people and practicing compassion wherever he went, which helped him establish resources. When I was born, he worked as a doorman, and now he is a senior director of a telecommunications company. As the daughter of this immigrant, he taught me to value the power of human connection and to use every opportunity to grow and move forward, to embrace barriers and figure out new ways to improve the current situation, to seek out the holes and figure out how to make things better, to find solutions. This has stayed with me throughout my life. My father's success has allowed me the privilege to take chances and discover my own path. My experience as a mental health counselor enabled me to understand the importance of holistic care and motivated me to take more of an active role through nursing. I wanted to have a say in the treatment process and to be able to influence patient outcomes by truly advocating for others. I want you to reflect on your own tie to nursing. Every student here has spent some time in clinicals, so think of a patient you helped or a specific action you witnessed by a nurse that inspired you. It doesn't have to be a life or death intervention. An act of service can be looking a person in their eyes and acknowledging them as a human with unique needs. Now hold on to that moment. For me, this happened during my pediatric rotation. We had a 12-year-old nonverbal autistic patient who was screaming in pain during his wound care, but the nurses met his cries of discontent with patience and kindness and went on to play music to help soothe him. Revisit that memory I asked you to hold on to. Remember, you can make whatever you're doing during clinicals meaningful through compassion. Becoming the best nurse you can be requires being open-minded. To do this, you cannot just rely on the information presented to you in classes. Yes, this is a great starting point, but it is not enough. And it should never be your one method of developing. How else can you grow? Well, look for the holes. Ask yourself, what are you missing? Engage with the community. Use the world as your classroom. Attend events that widen your perspective. Pages in a textbook can only provide you with so much information. You must expand your own knowledge through interaction and experience. If you merely see one piece of the puzzle, how can you possibly understand the big picture or practice empathy? In our work as future nurses, we have to think of every patient as a person. Understand that all people are multidimensional and that each individual is different. Patients come with a unique background and contribute special pieces which influence their current state and affect their options. How can you as a nurse optimize their outcomes? Connect your patients with resources to succeed, But first, you must have the ability to identify these barriers. Practice equity. Acknowledge that some of your patients may need more support than others. Again, this understanding is achieved through real-time experience from engagement with the community and organizations. As nursing students, we can use our college education to grow, but we cannot allow the curriculum to be our ceiling. We are ultimately responsible for our own growth. So make a difference through human connection. Utilize the world around you to shape you into the best nurse you can be, to enable you to truly care for every patient from any walk of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Amara. Good afternoon. I am Dr. Amy Barton, Senior Associate Dean for Faculty and Students. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Jean Watson. Dr. Watson joined the faculty of CU School of Nursing in 1973. She held many leadership positions in the school, serving as dean from 1988 to 1990. As Dean of Nursing, Watson founded the Center for Human Caring at CU's Health Sciences Center and served as director until 1997. It was the nation's first center of its kind, dedicated to using knowledge about human caring as interdisciplinary, theory-guided clinical practice, research, and education. Her work there led her to engage in many educational, clinical, and community activities in human caring. She went on to do studies as an international Fulbright research scholar in Sweden and held a Kellogg Fellowship in Western Australia. Her numerous professional invitations and global projects worldwide have continued, including in New Zealand, India, Thailand, Taiwan, Japan, China, South Africa, Peru, Colombia, Chile, Spain, and other parts of Europe and the world. Some of her books have been translated into 7 or more languages. Dr. Watson was instrumental in helping launch both the PhD and the Doctor of Nursing practice degrees, along with new academic clinical teaching and research models with clinical agencies. She was the second woman at CU to be designated Distinguished Professor in the university. She went on to found the nonprofit Watson Caring Science Institute in 2010, which strives to translate the model of caring, healing, Caritas into more systematic programs and services, which can continue to transform healthcare, one nurse, one practitioner, one educator, one system at a time. If you think these accomplishments sound legendary, they are. In fact, the American Academy of Nursing designated Dr. Watson a living legend due to her distinguished career and notable contributions to nursing practice, research, and education. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jean Watson.
Dear Amy Barton, gratitude to you and thank you for that lovely introduction, and my pleasure being here with all of you today. It's very, very special to have this call to care ceremony because I think it reflects the reality of where we are today and the need for human caring, perhaps more than ever, as we face this time. And of course, it's no accident that Nightingale is our legend and our image for this work to continue to inspire us across time and space. And her work originally back in 1859 continues to be yet to be fully actualized is my view of this work, but it's still there as a lingering meta paradigm for our profession to this day. And some of the works of her are so reflective of who she was as a person, because she's been designated as a visionary, a mystic, a healer, a scientist, a humanitarian. So she was way ahead of herself. And some of the core ingredients of her template or her framework that still guides us is that she was very clear that nursing is a professional calling. You were not here by accident. All of you, all of us are here for a reason, particularly at this time when society and humanity and even our planet Earth is in more need of human caring and healing and health and wholeness than ever before. So she was very clear that our passion and our mission was really to offer compassionate human service, knowledgeable human care for health to the public, both in patients, in hospitals, as well as in the community. She also predicted fewer hospitals, which is fascinating because we are really caught up with the pandemic in the midst of our hospital acute care needs right now as a crisis. But in some of her earlier work, she said why that we would not need hospitals in the future. And she went on to say, but oh, I shouldn't be writing about the year 2000. That's how visionary she was. So we are in this post-hospital era where in the future we have to pay more and more attention to our work in our communities for health and wholeness and healing as we are now focused on hospitals. And she was very visionary about this. She was also clear that we need differentiation and more specialization for different areas of practice. And some universities over time have actually created options for students at the end of their career or their end of their clinical rotations to choose kind of community or inpatient settings. And some of that's not so much in vogue now, but that's coming back into play now to help prepare students to move more quickly into a competent, kind of comfortable level in practice. And I'm working with some universities that are actually creating these kind of new programs. And of course, we have the preceptor programs, which are helpful for this too, to help you really move very quickly into your field of interest. Nightingale was also clear about the need for continuous education. There's a quote from her saying, "Why have intellect, moral ideals, and passion and no place in society where they need to be placed?" And that's another reason why nursing offers this passion, intellect, and moral ideals to allow us to fulfill our mission and our purpose to help sustain human caring and healing and health and wholeness for humanity and even our planet Earth, knowing that there's a relationship between human caring and eco-caring today. She was also clear about political astuteness and being involved in policy that takes us beyond just the current crisis of the time, but to have a visionary direction for the future using data and knowledge and information, observations, and so forth. Nightingale was also clear about the environment. And of course, if there was anything she's known for, are the environment. I'm sorry, I don't know how to stop my phone from ringing. I turned it off on my phone, but it's coming on my computer. So I apologize for that. I don't know how to turn it off. So please excuse my interruptions. But I want to say too about her focus on institutional changes and repatterning the field of care. And she was very clear about the human caring essentials that we've kind of lost along the way. For example, they might be redefined now as nursing therapeutics. And there are things that she wrote about in her notes on nursing. If you go back and read that again, she talked about and used terms such as auditory, visual, sensory, olfactory, tactile, color, form, light, consciousness. These are all concepts that have now been translated currently into what we refer to in some of the nursing practices as caring and healing modalities. And these are things like therapeutic touch, healing touch, reflexology, massage, music, sound therapy, et cetera, et cetera. So these are now being advanced as what I would refer to as nursing qua nursing practices, in contrast to balance and complement medical nursing qua medical practices. So all of this is part of the evolution and the advancement of nursing as a very distinct discipline that parallels and intersects with medicine. So we have this science of human caring that balances the science of curing and treatment and disease and so forth. But the other thing that Nightingale was very clear about is that nursing is a spiritual practice. And somewhere along the way, we got very detoured away from that. And when you step into a model of caring science and you make explicit that this philosophical orientation of what we have to offer to humanity in terms of honoring the unity of the whole person, mind, body, spirit as one, when you actually bring in an ethic, the ethics that I draw upon in my work that parallels this need for human caring today, has been referred to as the ethics of face. And drawing upon the work of Emmanuel Levinas, he's indicated that the only way we can sustain our humanity at this point in human history is through the face-to-face connection. So what a paradox and what a contrast that we were in when we had this virtual, but even now, through the opportunity for Zooms, we see each other's face, but we truly still have to come back face-to-face energetically to be in face-to-face relationship to fully allow for the advancement or the evolution of our humanity. The opposite of that is a concern at another ethical level, because we've, in some ways across time, in trying to be so institutional and conforming to some of the rules of the dominant thinking, is that we created almost an unconscious scenario whereby in the first instant, a person gets reduced to patient, and then patient gets reduced to body physical, and body physical gets reduced to machine or technology. And it's a slippery slope. We just kind of fall into it without having a consciousness, without having a theory, without having a philosophy, without having a consciousness to be able to critique what's happening so that you can begin to repattern this field and correct it. Because in that scenario, we take a whole human being and we reduce them down to the moral status of an object when we objectify them through technology and machinery as the body physical. And when that happens, we can begin to justify doing something to others as object we would never do to them as fully functioning persons like ourselves. So this too is something that we open up and we evolve to critique this and bring forth new patterns of delivery of care that are reflective practice, that are guided by how do we sustain human caring and healing and health and our humanity? How do we humanize our relationships with ourselves and each other in the midst of the technology? Because we all need the technology. There's nothing wrong with technology. It's how we use it and how we learn to critique it. So this too is part of this interruption and the need for repatterning. It's also ironic right now too. I find it fascinating to think about how we're actually, the pandemic is a metaphor for this, that we're in a quantum universe. We cannot turn our face away. There's no place to hide. Everything is connected with everything else. And yet, stop and think about it. We're in this digital quantum universe, and yet our hospitals have been set up in this industrial kind of era, like this product line of services. So this too is part of the critiquing. When you have a caring science and a broader vision from Nightingale forward, to continue to critique and come up with new solutions to sustain our humanity, to sustain wholeness and healing and health. Acknowledging, Nightingale certainly, that healing is not an outer treatment. You can treat someone all you want to in the outer physical body, but a healing process is internal. And what is her message to nursing is to put the patient in the best condition by which nature can heal. Nature has its own healing properties, and it's an inner journey. Someone may be totally cured, but they may not be healed. Or likewise, they may not be cured at all, but have the most natural, beautiful healing as part of a sacred circle of life and death and closure. So this too is part of the sacredness, if you will, of the paradigm of Nightingale, which informs us here to this day. So the other thing I wanted to highlight and just kind of share with you, because I've been doing work on Nightingale in different ways across my time, but some of the basic tenets of hers that I wanted to kind of play with and share a little bit were the ways that she gave examples from Notes on Nursing about these different modalities. For example, the auditory modality. She talked about the effects of music. And she talked about noise and how unnecessary noise is the most cruel absence of care, which could be inflicted on the sick or the well. And she says such unnecessary noise has undoubtedly induced or aggravated delirium in many cases. And so now we know there's so much attention to noise in hospitals. And of course, it's right there in the blueprint of Nightingale. So it's quite fascinating. And all of these caring healing modalities can actually be discovered in her own writings if we go back and revisit them again. I also want to highlight a little bit more about the use of sound and music, which she made such an example for. But I want to reference the work of Lewis Thomas, who was the head of research at Sloan Kettering Cancer Institute. And he talked about music and sound. And he says it this way. I thought it's such a beautiful quote. He says, the real meaning in music comes from tones, only audible in the corner of the mind. And then he goes on to say, if you're really looking about for something really profound and really profound mysteries, essential aspects of our existence, for which neither the sciences nor the humanities can provide any sort of explanation, I suggest starting with music. The professional musicologists haven't the ghost of an idea about what music is, or why we make it, and cannot be human without it, or even, and this is the telling point, how the human mind makes music on its own before it is written down and played. Nobody can explain it. It is a mystery, and thank goodness for that. So the work of Nightingale as a visionary and a mystic, she allowed for these kind of concepts to come into play, allowing for these invisible happenings that we need to give shape and form to. She also talked about visual. She says, every day a patient should have something beautiful to look at. And as a quote, variety and form of brilliancy of color in objects are actual means of recovery. The effect in sickness on beautiful objects, of the variety of objects, and especially of the brilliancy of color, is hardly at all appreciated. A few years ago, I was working with a colleague of mine who was in the hospital, and she was a lover of arts and humanities. And she says, I feel like I'm starving for a work of art. So I got an easel and a beautiful work of art that I knew she would like, and took it into her hospital room. Now we have changes, of course. We have much more of the healing arts being built into hospitals today, but it really is embedded in some of the thinking of Nightingale that we have kind of having to rediscover in a way. Now this is interesting. Another quote from Nightingale, a patient's bed should always be in the lightest spot in the room, and he should be able to look out the window. And now we know from research that when patients have a view of nature, they have a better recovery. So then she goes on to say, affording a patient a pleasant view, a judicious variety as to flowers and pretty things is actually healing. And patients should be able to see out the window, to see sky and sunlight at least, if you can show them nothing else. So now these whole basic premises of caring healing arts that nurses attend to in creating a healing environment and healing space at all levels is already built into our blueprint, but we bring it to a higher level of conscious intentionality by paying attention to these very systematically and begin to document these caring healing modalities along with the interventions of medicine and technology. So I won't belabor all of these, but these are really common things that we have to go back, basic sanitation practices right now facing us with the pandemic. And another one of her quotes is about having the first rule of nursing is to keep the air within as pure as the air without, and to open windows. If the main function of a nurse is to maintain the air within the room as fresh as the air without, then she should always be provided with an air test, which indicates the organic matter of the air. This is incredible that she writes about these kind of directions for basic sanitation that we're now faced with right in the midst of this COVID. And then it goes on and on into the different touch modalities, about gustatory modalities, basic cups of tea, the symbolism of eating and food. All of these things are part of what have led Nightingale to provide us with this continuous perspective on how we go back and attend to the advancement, or even what we might think of as Nightingale units. Florence Nightingale was very clear that she was in charge, as a nurse, she was in charge of the caring and healing and the health for that unit, for that patient. And early on in my work, even at Denver VA, actually, we did a project, we called it the Nightingale units. They wanted to create these caring and healing units throughout the hospital. And we started it with one at Children's Hospital in Denver, and we started one at Denver VA. But the VA hospital called it Nightingale units because they wanted to take responsibility for the caring and healing and creating safe space for the nurses to have their own healing space throughout their, for their own self-care. And that's, again, coming into play. Almost all the hospitals in the country that are using caring science or Caritas practices, they have created little sanctuaries or healing rooms. Some of them are called Watson rooms in hospitals to provide that sacred space for nurses to come to and have time out. It's not a place for eating or for gossip. It's really sacred space for quiet time. So this too is part of the practices that allow nurses to renew themselves in the midst of this critical time that we're facing right now. So again, Nightingale was very clear that nursing is a calling, and we are there once again to be open to the further development of our caring, our compassion, our commitment, this face-to-face connection. Even if you can't touch someone physically, you can touch them non-physically, energetically. We can send them compassion and love energetically from our heart to their heart. We can practice silence and listening. We can honor the interconnection between the family and finding creative solutions that we create every day to come up with other ways to deal with the intense needs, the individual personalized needs of individual patients. All of this is a basic evolution for nursing to advance under its own discipline with its own perspective on bringing forth a model of science that embraces caring. Because as soon as you put caring into a model of science, as soon as you put the whole person into a model of science, as soon as you put all the vicissitudes of human existence and human emotions into a model of science and all the human experiences that we all undergo, as soon as you dare put the concept of caritas or love into a model of science, which brings nurses into nursing, then we have to admit we have a different model of science. And that model of science is actually grounded in Nightingale's vision as both a scientist. I don't know if you probably all know this now, but she was considered one of the first statisticians. That she devised a pie graph, which is a way to visually present data. And of course, now we're very committed to data. And so this is really quite an era for data. And I might just share with you some of the data that I'm working on to bring meaning to the data of caring, to the measurement, if you will, of caring, which is quite difficult to comprehend. But we're now working with a national project through Press Ganey, which is one of the largest survey patient data in the country. And we have 5 of the Caritas items from my theory that are incorporated into the outcomes to assess the outcomes of caring for patients' experience of caring that are otherwise they have no data for this. The 5 items that we're asking patients and gathering data on are asking patients, was your care delivered with loving kindness? Wow, that's pretty powerful. Did you have a trusting relationship with your practitioner? Were your basic needs met with dignity? Did you experience a healing environment? And were your values and beliefs honored? So out of the 10 Caritas processes, these 5 have been factor analyzed down for validity and reliability and are now being used as a way of assessing patients' experience of caring. And through some of the earlier pilots that we did nationally with Press Ganey, there are 2 of these 5 items that are totally predictive, totally predictive in the pilot of outcomes for patients' experience of caring. The one was the healing environment. They experienced a healing environment and their basic needs were met with dignity. And I want to speak a little bit about the healing environment because Nightingale was known for taking care of the environment and the pollutants in the environment, the air, the light, nature, etc. But in the theory and in the philosophy of caring science in relation to the environment, the nurse's presence, his or her consciousness, their intentionality, your compassion, your ability to hold this higher vibration of care in those moments with another human being, you become the environment. So we can have the most beautiful environment. It can be a very sterile environment, but when the human connection is there, that the student even talked about, the human connection, this is what is really sustaining and is so needed now when we have such sterility and such barriers to human caring. And even sometimes we can't even touch. We have these opportunities to pay attention to the energetic consciousness field of the presence of one person to the other in offering loving kindness, compassion, and equanimity for ourselves as well as for them. So let me just restate again some of the knowledge and wisdom that we still need from Nightingale, that's still needed, was needed in her time and is needed here today. We still have the need to reiterate the interconnection of the oneness, the unity between the person and the environment and our universe at the bigger level, between person and nature, between human caring and eco-caring, between our inner world and our outer world. Even physician friends of mine say that medicine in the future will be less concerned with diagnosis and more concerned with meaning. What is the meaning the person holds, their inner life world, the subjective life world of what is being experienced, what they're experiencing, their diagnosis, how they're treated, etc. So this interconnection and the unity between the inner and outer, between the public and the private. We practice who we are. So this is an ongoing journey for personal and professional development as they go together. And to systematically develop nursing and its advancement to balance and complement the finest of what medicine has to offer, which requires healing, and it's like a yin-yang balance. We have been very imbalanced. Our systems are geared toward yang energy, which is we need, but if it's too imbalanced, you can't heal with yang energy. It requires the balancing of yin and yang, and nursing is an archetype and a metaphor for yin healing energy, which is now needed more than ever. And we have to ensure that nurses continue to get advanced education, which of course, University of Colorado has stood for as part of the leading universities in the country. So all of this is by way of providing a summary of this closing at this time of positive themes from Nightingale, which we can still attend to. For example, we still have the need to restore and advance these basic nursing, care, and healing modalities, these holistic practices. That has to be systematically built into the advancement of nursing practice. The integration of the spiritual, the moral, and the metaphysical. We have opportunities for mysteries and miracles that we cannot explain. And we actually have just recently published a book on miracles that nurses have shared with us. There's this need for emergence of feminine energy. The energy balancing is coming back into play for healing and health. There has to be a return of a calling for this profession, such as what we're experiencing here today. So you're to be complimented by having the University of Colorado and Dean reach out and offer this occasion. And there's also need for the public's request for these competencies to come from nursing, because it's not just medical treatment that hospitals are now having to deal with. We have the need for advancing the caring and healing health practices and honoring this interrelationship between the personal, the political, the social, the scientific, and the spiritual as all one. So I bring this to you with joy in sharing the vision of Nightingale to some extent and how it can inform us even here today. So God bless and namaste and all good wishes on your journey.
Often we hear about burnout, but increasingly we learn that the burnout is not because we care too much. It's because we wall ourselves off and close off our heart and close off our very source of love. And the human connectedness that gives us the life-generating force for this work. Why are we in this field? When it often seems that we are just there to fix the body, to give physical diagnosis and treatment. Healing is much more than that. Much more of what it's about comes down to us through the ages, from our ancestors and the wisdom traditions that call us into this work. And that's about honoring our very presence, our connectedness with another person in a given moment. And it is that caring moment that actually can be a critical turning point in my life, in your life, and in another person's life, as we touch another person's humanity. What if we revisited the very foundation of our work and began to honor the deep, rich beauty of our humanity? That must again flourish. Because this is what healing is about. And what if we realize that this is sacred work? And it's sacred because we're working with the life force of another person as well as ourselves on this shared journey. What if we began to pause and to realize that maybe this one moment with this one person is the very reason we are here on Earth at this time. Any health practitioner today is struggling to return to the very human depths of our work. And we know that when we are connecting with another person in this deep way, even if it's for a brief moment in time, that we have much more purpose in our life and in our work. And we know that when that's missing, there's an empty void, and we're dispirited. And we also know the same thing happens with patients. When we hold them in their wholeness, we're holding their healing for them. And we are helping to sustain them when they are most vulnerable. And as we sustain another person, we're also sustaining ourselves. This work is a spiritual practice. When we touch another person physically, we're touching more than just their body. We're touching their mind. We're touching their heart. We're touching their very soul. And when we look into the face of another person, we look into the infinity and the mystery of the human soul. And when we look into the mystery and the infinity of the human soul, it mirrors the infinity and the mystery back into our soul. And that's what connects us with this infinite field of universal love that we draw upon in our caring and healing practices. So I offer this as a blessing for you and your work in the world and in your heart, as you open to the love that you have to give and to the purpose of your calling into this noble and ancient profession.
Thank you, Dr. Watson.
Okay, at this time, I would like to invite all traditional and UCAN students to join me in reciting the pledge. Due to Zoom webinar format, mine will be the only audible voice. I pledge in the presence of this assembly to honorably practice my profession of nursing. I pledge to honor all people with respect, dignity, and inclusion. I gratefully acknowledge the ancestral lands and indigenous people on whose homeland we live, gather, and work. I pledge that my practice will be driven by excellence and equity. I will provide evidence-based care, seek continuing education, collaborate with my colleagues, and educate those in my care. I will do these things remembering quality, patient, and family-centered care is my main priority. I pledge to communicate effectively with patients and colleagues and promote teamwork to provide optimal care. I pledge to be present for each patient as a whole and always remember patients are not just patients. They are people who need care to be delivered with cultural consciousness while honoring their unique needs. I pledge to be an advocate for patients during the most tumultuous times of their lives. I'll practice patient-centered and family-centered care, and will make time to listen to their wishes, fears, and stories. I pledge to practice with integrity and compassion. I realize nursing is not simply a discipline. It is an art, a science, and a way of life. Caring is at the center of my being, and I will exude it in all my interactions. I pledge to do all these things, remembering that I make a difference in the lives of my patients each day.
At this time, we will proceed with reading of student names. Names will be read in alphabetical order, beginning with the summer 2020 traditional pathway cohort. The spring 2021 cohort will follow. Vanessa Adame, Zanab Ali, Amar Alec, Daniela Alari, Kristen Alord, Sarah Ambrose, Jenna Amidown, Juliessa Angulio, Alana Azuero, Alyssa Baker, Rachel Baker, Chloe Bannell, Francis Beasley, Tamara Bear, Dustin Bell, Philip Biggs, Claire Blanken, Julie Brown, Jennifer Bruno, Ashley Brusco, Laura Kalin, Andrea Carney, Peter Chesbro, Daniela Cisneros, Ellen Clack, Caroline Collins, Maria Cordova, Samantha Quayler, George Davis, Miriam Derry, Soline Dorkamenjan, Ebenezer Donko, Anna Enkoff, Edith Elsner Ridgway, Emily Erickson, Christian Fate, Joanna Fling, Maria Flores, Elliot Foote, Kaylee Fowler, Dominic Frazier, Sarah Frazier, Samuel Friedman, Brittany Fuller, Rachel Garcia, Eric George, Rhiannon Girdhart, Alex Gunta, Birch Goodwin, Jessica Goldberg, April Gosling, Gwendolyn Gregg, Yesenia Gura Crisosto, Ivanian Goldman, Hyunsuk Ha, Naomi Hata, Mary Haynes, Elizabeth Hill, Gage Hornsby, Lauren Hudson, Amanda Johnston, Alex Kim, Andrew Kim, Lynn Kim, Ashley Korlsman, Angela Kornev, Jennifer LaCroix, Margaret Loncourt, Alexa Loveland, Abigail Longcarvla, Celine Lamoa, Heidi Luna, Madison Lynch, Savian Maldalza, Stacy Marvia, Chelsea Martin, Brandy Mata, Marley Mavarmotas, Evelyn Marzirigos, Shani MacArthur, Shannon McGee, Lainey Meek, Yosin Menjeska, Samantha Menu, Allison Minark, Jasmine Mitchell Gaither, Anastasia Mineska, Jacob Nelson, Upsana Nepal, Ashley Newbick, Amy Nguyen, Hogan Nguyen, Donald Newell, Kulechki Usu, Alice Mary Ochow Kuwatson, Ashley O'Connor, Millicent Ofari, Mikhail Obalatsky, Alexandra Polarka, William Petrie, Sarah Fawn, Elizabeth Phelps, Rochelle Pickering, Juliet Penenda, Nicole Poirier, Hayden Porter, Chad Pristash, Abby Remistash, Jeffrey Ramones, Kaylee Rankin, Amy Reed, Autumn Reed, Anna Reisner, Catherine Ree, Jesse Rendinger, Tessa Riemann Bryan, Davis Roll, Rodolfo Ruiz, Gabby Sugorian, Nicole Sally, Lizeth Sanchez Garcia, Nicole Sandoval, Olivia Cinto, Megan Scott, Faith Scholl, Joshua Simpson, Caitlin Slater, Gary States, Morgan Sturges, Barrett Sullivan, Cheyenne Soy, Anna Taylor, Erica Thompson, Taylor Thorne, Gabrielle Topol, Samantha Trahan, McKenna Turbine, Celia Turner, Crystal Valenzuela, Christina Volkin, Nicole Ward, Carolyn West, Catherine Whittaker, Sydney Williams, Sydney L. Williams, Veronica Wong, Amanda Worley, Jamie Yee, Maria Zamora, Catherine Zalwinski, Heidi Zermeno, Rachel Zhao, Amuta Zor. The Spring 2021 UCAN. Catherine Arinkel, Sophie Anton, Justin Boz, Christopher Batelli, James Boshears, Talia Brecher, Catherine Casara, Laura Chafrin, Cassidy Colin, Kyria Connolly, Brianna Daniel, Molly Dawell, Kristen Ellison, Michelle Grudzinski. Anna Claire Grumbine, Nathaniel Holler, Audrey Heggert, Matthew Hotmere, Jennifer Kodgrensman, Claire Kaiser, Brent Kanud Hansman, Allie Counter, Naomi Lopez, Veren Lupier. Jadelle Mail, Julia Maurer, Allison Moore, Hannah Myers, Rebecca Nunn, Laura Palmer, Amarissa Parker, Adrian Petrella, Laura Ramirez, Margot Ramirez, Bridget Riley, Ian Riveau, Grace Richmond, Cara Reber, Sarah Reisen, Hannah Riker, Lucy Robb, Caroline Robertson, Anna Robinson, Danielle Schmid, Anna Schwartz, Lydia Scott, Alexandria Sharfin, Mark Simmons, Brittany Sleet, Jordan Spiker, Brooks Steinkoff, Brittany Sufi, Michael Slupisco, Jacob Sykes, Winthana Tesfa, Jordan Thayer, Aaron Tilquist, Sarah Tisdale, Colette Titus, Rachel Tover, Marissa Watkins, Joshua Weatherstone, Elizabeth Westfield, Mackenzie White, Mia White, Sadie White, and Elizabeth Rowe. At this time, we're going to share the I Am a Nurse video created by the Memorial Hermann Health System. We hope the nurses in this video inspire you in your own professional journey.
This concludes the Call to Care ceremony. We thank all of you for taking time to celebrate the occasion of entering the nursing profession. The intent of this ceremony is not only to mark the momentous occasion during an extremely difficult time, but to inspire you to be the nurse everyone looks to first. We honor and thank all nurses who have come before us, continue to lead us, have sacrificed and given their lives for others during this horrific pandemic. We are humbled by your selflessness on behalf of the patients you care for and the path you have paved for all of us. Thank you to our guest speaker, Dr. Jean Watson, for connecting us to the human science of caring and for reminding us that the connection we make with those we care for is at the very heart of why we are put here on this earth at this time. Thank you to Dean Eli, Senior Associate Dean Dr. Barton, our students Omera and Chris, Stephanie for reading the student names, and our amazing team, Amy and Susan here at the college, for making this event meaningful in a virtual world. Thank you, Paul, for your support with the technology. To all of our faculty, thank you for caring and nurturing our next generation of nurses by being inspirational role models in the classroom and clinical setting. Thank you to our students who have worked so hard to be here, who continue to inspire us every day with their own stories of courage and have answered the call to care in so many ways. Thank you to the support systems that surround our students with the energy and resiliency to carry on despite the challenges. Nursing is not defined by one word. It is a privilege. Honor it in all you do. It is a journey. Open yourself up to being transformed. It's a commitment. Instill the resiliency to endure. It's a challenge. Have the courage to ask for help. It is an art. Have grace with yourself and others. It is a science. Be vigilant and alert. But perhaps most of all, it is wondrous, awe-inspiring, and incomprehensibly like no other thing on this earth. Enjoy every minute. Thank you and have a great weekend.